I said it before and I'll say it again.
That scene, that last scene.
What does it mean?
I'm the dude, you know?
Get the fuck out of here. No, I cannot. That final scene starts now.
Hello, we are back with another episode of That Final Scene. My name is Sophie and I'm back with the full gang, Ben and Simon.
Yeah, we're back. We haven't recorded in a while.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like I haven't seen you in forever. How have you been?
Not too bad.
Yeah, I mean, I was fine. I got vertigo for a while. That's the thing I didn't tell you. That was great fun.
What happened?
I went to the gym because, like, that's me now. And like halfway through, I started getting really lightheaded, and then literally got home. I couldn't get out of bed for like 24 hours.
Why did you get vertigo from the gym?
I have no idea. Basically, I went to A&E, and they were like, "Yeah,
Oh, did
just
you?
these things just happen."
What is it like?
It's like a room just spins. Literally, like I would try and get out of bed and walk to the living room.
Wait,
like
is this
walking
what
on a
you're
tightrope.
telling Ellie to get out of going to the gym?
No, it's
if
not.
I say it on a podcast, then it's real.
No, it's certainly not. It's certainly not. I was planning on putting together a little montage of me just talking over the U2 track Vertigo, but then I didn't. I thought that was a little bit too much work.
And it's not to do with the fact you flew on an airplane
No,
recently?
nothing.
No, I get that quite a lot when I jump on the treadmill. But
You're not supposed to jump on a treadmill. You run on the treadmill.
Jump on the treadmill.
Jump on it.
Funny.
Like you jump
Up
on
and down.
No. As in like jump. As in I jump on a treadmill and then I start walking and running.
Okay.
You have to jump because like.
Oh, you mean
it's-
to get going on it?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I meant.
Do you
Sorry.
like set it going really, really fast and then jump on?
Yeah. You know when people say jump on a call?
Yeah,
Yeah.
They don't
you jump
mean
on the treadmill. Yeah.
I catch myself in that, but I try not to say that anymore because it's
Why?
It's like corporate lingo.
I started saying hop.
Yeah.
Makes it a little bit more whimsical, you know.
Yeah, it's more gentle. It's more gentle.
But yeah, so mine, an action-packed 2 weeks since we recorded for me.
I feel like we aligned because that's when I started going to the gym properly after we recorded
Yeah,
the
it's,
last
you know, as
episode.
soon as
I think it's the season.
As soon as we started like getting into audio and a medium that no one can actually see me, I thought I really need to lose some weight.
Do you watch films in the gym?
I think I have I've got a clearly fat voice, you know. No, I don't. I can't do that. I see a lot of people who like watch movies and they watch episodes of TV shows while they're on the treadmill stuff. I can't do that. I can't like concentrate on that. I just listen to music and podcasts and just like switch off. Listen to ours just I'm a massive narcissist. I just listen to our podcasts all the time.
I used to have this terrible habit of watching stuff on my phone when I used to commute to work. I was the worst kind of person back then. But I feel like I'm doing much better because I stopped doing that. And I only reserve TV and like cinema time for that kind of... I don't, it just feels weird now.
Do you read a book?
I just listen to podcasts instead.
Just stare blankly at the person across the aisle.
Like, I think the equivalent is, you know, when you eat loads of sugar, right,
Okay.
regularly, it makes you feel like crap. But because you're used to it, you don't quite feel how bad it makes you feel. And once you stop eating sugar and then you have it like a few weeks later or months later, you realize how bad it is for you. And you can't quite get back to that. Like, biscuits don't quite taste the same anymore.
What are you saying?
Is it
you're
just me?
Miss Purity now and you're not eating
Yes,
sugar?
exactly. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying that small screens are bad for you. So now I can't quite watch anything on mobile.
Sophie won't watch anything on a screen that's below 70 inches, you know.
Yeah.
Everything
7 inches.
everything has to be widescreen. Cinema aspect.
Speaking of, what have you guys been watching recently?
I've watched quite a lot. I feel like I've finally finished Stranger Things, even though I saw every spoiler possible because me and my girlfriend, I was talking to her about it. I was like, how have you avoided all these spoilers? Like, she was like, oh, I don't know, like any of them. I'd seen basically the main spoiler for it, which we could talk about if we want
It's
to.
inevitable.
Yeah, but it's basically because I just follow lots of nerdy, like IGN within a couple of days. We're just posting about, this character's dead. And you're like, oh, for fuck's sake. And so, yeah, my Instagram feed was just full of that. Finished The Boys as well, which we could talk about. And started watching Halo. I got Paramount Plus. And I'm really underwhelmed by it. Yeah, they've made Paramount have made a TV series that I think it's been fully released in the States, and here they're doing it like week by week. Some nice Irish representation in it. There's some Irish actors in there, which I love. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of like for a TV show that's based off a very exciting video game, it's kind of dull. It kind of looks like low rent sci-fi. Like it doesn't look like, even though they've probably pumped tons of money into it, it still kind of looks like Firefly. And I loved Firefly. Like I thought Firefly. Oh, dude, Firefly is the best show ever that only got one season. It's a show from like 2000, early 2000s, directed by Joss Whedon. and it just got one season, and it's basically kind of like this sci-fi show about like a bunch of rebels, kind of that kind of thing. But it is really good, and it only ever got one season, and so the whole thing is like bring back Firefly, but they'll never bring it back because it's perfect as it is. But yeah, it just kind of looks like that, like early kind of naughty sci-fi where every kind of setting looks the same. And so yeah, I've just been a little bit underwhelmed.
That's on the back of the game, right?
Yeah. So like
Right.
Halo games have been coming out for like since the early 2000s.
Yeah. I'm not surprised it's bad. As in, like, I feel like it's rare that games have translated well.
Yeah,
on the
it's
big, like
really
Assassin's
rare.
Creed, Warcraft.
Oh,
like
God,
just-
that Assassin's Creed. Well, again, Irish representation. Love Michael Fassbender, but Christ, that film was terrible. Yeah. Oh my God, it was so pointless. Having said that, and I do plan on watching it. Arcane, which is on Netflix, is supposedly really good, and that's based
true.
off a video game as well.
My brother watched that. He was
and I think people are starting to get better at it. Like trying to be as true. I think that's the problem with the Halo one. The Halo one's just not that true to the source material. Like the main thing about the games is that you don't know what this guy looked like, and he wears a suit of armor the whole time. Within about 10 minutes of the first episode, he takes his helmet off and you're like, oh great, it's porn stash from Orange is the New Black. Like it kind of like it breaks that illusion that the video games have like spent so many years of building up of like this faceless super soldier. And it's like, oh okay, so we just don't care. I'm kind of forcing myself to watch it.
How have you got enough time to force yourself to watch a show you didn't like?
Because I get into bed at night and I will just watch an episode. Like that tends to be when I do a lot of my.
Does that send you to sleep?
Yeah, it kind of has. Yeah, it's a kind of shocking indictment for that TV show.
Very quickly to go back to The Boys.
Yeah.
I just want to apologize to the showrunners if they're listening for what I said in the previous episodes, because I feel because the finale like made up for the entire season.
I thought the finale was great, but there was still some stuff that was really predictable.
Oh yeah, but I feel like it's not the end. It came across as a semi-finale in a way.
It feels like we've gotten to like a mid-season finale rather than kind of finishing up. Because I don't know. Again, it goes back to like how much longer can I watch the show where the guy is the epitome of like American white supremacy,
sure.
And it's just a little bit like, oh, okay, so like he can kill someone in front of a crowd of people and we're cool with that now. But yeah, I thought there was a lot of the character arcs came nicely full circle, and like Starlight's was great, and Huey really redeemed himself.
Exactly.
Yeah, Simon's like, I've never seen this before,
Don't
but you should watch it. Yeah, I think you'll enjoy it. It's good superhero. It's basically a thing where they go, superheroes are dicks.
Yeah,
people
like
who
Deadpool.
are superpowered.
You like Deadpool, so I think you're gonna like The Boys.
I want to watch The Lost Boys. That's on my list to watch soon.
That's about
The
vampires.
Kiefer Sutherland.
The vampire 80s film.
We should have a thing like what we're gonna do around Halloween. It'd be nice to do.
Yeah,
like a bunch
if anyone
of,
has suggestions for like some good scary movies for us to watch,
Donnie Darko.
I think Donnie Darko is a good one to have on the list for Halloween. And
Yeah.
Lost Boys is another good one. And then we've got like Alien has an anniversary coming up, doesn't it?
Yes.
So we could do Alien for that.
Yeah, I love Stephen King, so we need to do like a Stephen King.
Misery.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yes.
Oh God. Oh jeez. Every time.
Misery is one of my favorites.
Oh God. Every time
Let's
I
have
watch
it.
Misery, I feel like my legs are gonna break. It's just like I do it though. I do it part 1 and 2. I'd be up for watching that as well. I think that'd be good.
Yeah.
Get some Tim Curry in. Some Tim Curry action.
Oh
Legends.
yeah, so the old one. Yeah, not the.
Oh
okay,
yeah, no, not the new one. No,
I
we
like
have to watch the
I
old
like
one.
the first. I like it. The
Part
2017 one. The new
Yeah.
one with Bill Hader
With some of the
and-
kids from Stranger Things in it.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, which I thought was good.
Let's go. The main film I wanted to talk about is, well, I know I'm very late to the party because it actually came out a few months ago on the big screen, but now it's out on 4K, DVD, digital, like whatever. It's called The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. Have you heard of
Oh, the Nick
that film?
Cage movie. Yeah, the Nick Cage movie. I haven't watched it yet, but I really want to.
Okay, so I got a screener from Lionsgate, and they were kind enough to give me one. So I wanted to kind of talk about it for a second, because I remember talking about
Hashtag
it.
spons, not spons.
It's not sponsored, but like I got the, yeah. Hello. I remember talking about the film with Tim, comedian of cinema, and he was like, I want you to watch that film because I feel like you're going to see our friendship in that film. And I did. So shout out to Tim. Long story short, Nicolas Cage plays himself. Well, a version of himself, because he's kind of creatively unfulfilled and he's going broke, which to be fair is kind of true, or at least was true. So he accepts a $1 million offer to attend a birthday party of quote unquote super fan of his, who's played by Pedro Pascal.
Love Pedro Pascal.
Yeah, okay. So, of course, he's not super innocent, super fun. There, he has a reason. He's inviting him over to his party, and the CIA employs Nick Cage to take down Pedro Pascal's character. The thing I love about the film is that, one, it doesn't take itself too seriously. If you go into that film trying to make it make sense, you're going to lose. You're going to have an awful time. So, like, it has a lot of meta references. I think you get a great highlight reel version of, like, Nick Cage's best career moments in a less than a 2-hour film. And the chemistry between Cage and Pascal is just amazing.
I love a bit of Nick Cage.
I think
he gets a bad rap. And actually, recently, in the last couple of years, he's done some really good stuff. Like Mandy was great. Pig is really good. Amazing. Even in Kick-Ass, he's like one of the best things about the first Kick-Ass movie is when he's Big Daddy. He's brilliant in it. Yeah, he had that rough patch where, like most actors do. Yes. Everybody has them. He's
National Treasure.
Yeah, National Treasure kind of. He's polarizing, isn't he? He's like,
sure.
My favorite thing about him, having read interviews with him and seen him like watch clips of him on YouTube, he is kind of unapologetically just like, well, this is what I do. Like, and he's talked about a lot about like providing for his family and stuff like that. It's like, well, yeah, of course I did like big budget movies because I got a load of money so I could put my kids through college. I saw someone posted about the Ghost Rider thing. I don't mind the first Ghost Rider. I don't think it's that bad. I don't think it's terrible. And I think if you watch his whole filmography, and even people who hate him will probably go, yeah, that's good though. Like Raising Arizona or something like that, you'd say, even though he's had some stinkers in there and some kind of weird stuff.
He had to do a lot of B movies for whatever reason, but who cares? Like I would have an issue with him if the movies were, problematic or he chose them for a, particular reason, but like just like any other person, he's just making some money. And the thing is, to quickly go back to the film, to what you just said, he's owning all of that. Like he's owning the meme culture around his legacy and his reputation, and it's such a 2022 film. Again, it's just very self-aware. So there's that, and then very quickly, I want to give a shout out to Better Call Saul. I know you guys haven't caught up yet, and I know Ben is binging it very, very soon.
I'm planning to, yeah.
It's penciled in for Ben's bedtime.
Yeah, for my bedtime routine.
No, it's not for bedtime. It needs to have your full attention.
It must be watched in broad daylight, yeah.
I've had a lot of people on Instagram reach out for a reaction on the podcast. This is happening, and I would love for us to maybe do like a special episode, maybe a bonus one around the finale. Maybe we could do like a shorter one. So yeah, as I said last time, I am just speechless with what Vince Gilligan has done with the show.
I promise, I will watch it.
You won't be able to make it to you won't be able to watch like 4 seasons in 3 weeks or something?
Well, the last time I did that, I was a student and I had a lot more time on my hands. So I can't promise that.
The one thing that I wanted to mention about the show is the cinematography, and it's interesting because we never talk about cinematography when it comes to TV shows. Like you never talk about like composition and lighting and camera work, but they've just, I don't know, I need to look up the cinematographer if it's the same one from Breaking Bad or if they've changed. It's like I'm watching a Roger Deakins level of work. So yeah.
Is that who we went to see?
Yes, we did. Yeah, that's right. We went to see.
I feel really intelligent now.
Yes, you got that right. Yeah, we went to see Roger Deakins a year ago, probably, to see some of his bad. Okay. Oh, I'm so glad you remember. I'm very proud of you, Simon. Just FYI, in this episode, we're gonna talk about the final scene of Mummy by Xavier Dolan, which I'm quite excited about. But before we do that, we want to spend some time and give some love to Night on Earth by Jim Jarmusch, which came in as a request from a friend.
Yeah, so this guy, hi Sam, that me and Ben used to work with.
This guy.
Called Sam, heard we were doing this podcast and sent in his own review of it. Should we play it?
Yeah.
Hey, That Final Scene podcast. I'm getting in touch because I recommended a film to Simon like ages ago, and quite typically, I gather he still hasn't got around to watching it.
I watched it now.
So I thought I'd broaden the recommendation to the three of you, if you haven't seen it already, of course, which is very possible as it's a bit of a hidden gem. Anyway, the film is Night on Earth. It's from 1991. It's written and directed by American Jim Jarmusch, who wrote the screenplay in just a few days, developing characters for actors he wanted to work with. and set them in their home cities. I stumbled across it late at night on TV, mainly because it opens with my crush of that era, Winona Ryder.
Shit.
Hey, you need a cab, lady?
Yeah, I guess I do.
I'm right here.
It's been on my top 3 films ever since. And here are 3 reasons it's so great. Firstly, the concept. It's 5 independent short stories of taxi journeys at the same time in different cities around the world. LA, New York, Paris, Rome and Helsinki. They're like 5 long single scenes in real time.
Dites, les aveugles, ils ne portent pas des lunettes noires d'habitude?
Ah ouais?
Anyway, it's definitely interesting for this podcast because it's essentially 5 different final scenes all in one film. Secondly, the characters and dialogue. It's an awesome cast. Newbie Winona Ryder, like I said, alongside Hollywood legend Gina Rowlands, Giancarlo Esposito, way before Breaking Bad's Fried Chicken.
Look, Angela, just calm down!
Don't tell me to calm down!
Rosie Perez is on great form, Beatrice Dahl of Betty Blue fame.
J'écoute de la musique. Enfin, je sens de la musique.
And best of all, it introduced me to the hilarious Roberto Benigni.
He's not. We're gonna roast your friend.
Went on to do one of the best Oscar-winning speeches of all time, For Life is Beautiful.
This is a terrible mistake because I used up all my English.
Third and finally, Jarmusch is also a musician, and I think that really is evident in the pace, the rhythm, the mood, the unique atmosphere throughout, and particularly thanks to the score from Tom Waits. The spirit of each city is perfectly captured, with so many themes running through the 5 storylines, from personal passions, goals and dreams, family, friendship, prejudices, loss, heartbreak, and first love. It's hilarious and moving storytelling for those intimate, transient interactions of a taxi journey. It's beautiful, relatable, simplicity. I hope you enjoy it as much as I have over the years.
When I was a boy.
His voice is wow.
Sam does have a great voice.
It's very Tim Burton-y.
Yeah, it is. That's what I thought. It's very very mid-90s Edward Scissorhands vibes.
Thanks for that, Sam. That was wicked. But some of that film disturbed Ben quite deeply.
Yeah, I mean, so...
Disturbed the choice of a word.
Like, right, listen. His Oscar speech may have been great, but spending 15 to 20 minutes watching a man pretty graphically describe what it's like to shag a pumpkin and then shag a sheep and then shag a sister-in-law, subsequently killing a priest in the back, giving the poor man a heart attack. Kind of, wasn't my cup of tea. I did enjoy some of it, I have to say. And it's an interesting one because almost like talking about a TV show, you can break the film down into 5 individual segments, and talk about the ones that you like and didn't like. I really liked the New York one. I thought that was really good with
Esposito.
Giancarlo Esposito, and I can't remember the name of the German actor who plays Helmut.
Mueller.
But I thought that was brilliant. Like, that was the one that felt like the most kind of honest, because it was a genuinely 2 people from completely different places and not understanding. And actually, from a final scene element, when Helmut drives off and is driving through and he drives away and he takes off his red nose, you kind of... He doesn't say anything, but you get this real sense of what it must be like to be an immigrant who's just arrived in New York, who's now driving a taxi, who doesn't know where anything is and doesn't actually speak the language. And it's quite like I've only ever been to New York as a tourist, never even trying to live there. It'd be insane. And you just kind of see it in just his facial expressions of driving around the city and the kind of fear and like uncertainty in his face. And I did really enjoy that one. I enjoyed the French one as well. I enjoyed the one in Paris. I know I can't remember what I've seen the actor in. I've seen him in a couple of different things.
Betty Blue. That was your standout.
But yeah, I mean, the Winona Ryder one,
I found her quite overacted.
Yeah, I was Googling as well. She would have only been like 19 or 20.
It must have been one of her first roles.
As we were listening to the clip, as I quite rightly pointed out, if I was a taxi driver in my 20s and someone offered me the chance to be a big movie star, damn fucking right I'd say yes. Like, not a fucking chance I'm turning that down.
That doesn't make a good film though, Ben.
Yeah, it's a film that's broken into 5 parts. At least that one can have a happy ending. One of them, a priest dies in one of them. At least let somebody have a happy ending. Christ, let Winona be an actress.
Well, you sad when the priest died.
I wasn't sad when the priest died because it was just an entirely strange
intolerable.
encounter. I was almost happy it was over. I was like, honestly, thank God he's dead, because if he had to put up with that man for another 10 minutes, he'd probably have jumped out the bloody window. Like, oh God. But as Sam pointed out, one of the best things in it is the music. Like, the music in it is fantastic.
Yeah, I agree. To go back to the Rome one.
You're going to use the word problematic?
No, there's nothing problematic about the film because it's Jim Jarmusch. I mean, he's the godfather of indie filmmaking. There's nothing to criticize on that front. But like, to go back to the Rome one, it has that kind of super extroverted energy that it's quite toxic at the same time. Like, I couldn't quite, it was intolerable. He brings that kind of brand energy that I'm not here for, and I just remember like waiting for it to end.
I think what's interesting
and you grow
about
tired of it because there's nothing there beyond just some like surface laughs, really.
Yeah, there's nothing to like connect you to that character. That's not an
I find it
experience.
quite surreal, I'd say.
Well, I think the
But there's
thing
nothing
is,
surreal about like a conversation with a cab driver.
well, I think we might talk about this when we talk about Mummy later in the episode. But I think the thing that Jarmusch does well on it is that European cinema and kind of that kind of like French, Italian cinema always does feel a little bit kind of like exaggerated and stuff like that. And you definitely feel that in Mommy with the kind of the French Canadian element of like, there's a lot of exaggeration and just in the language and stuff like that. And I think that definitely does it right, as you say, Simon. I think it's quite a surreal thing. And he balances that quite well. Like, they do feel like French and Italian films. Like they almost like could have been directed by a French filmmaker or an Italian filmmaker. But yeah, as you say, Sophie, there was nothing, even in surrealist comedy and stuff like that, it just feels like surface laughs. Like, it doesn't feel like there's anything kind of deeper there. I don't know. That was from my take anyway.
For me, one of the most disappointing aspects of the film was that there was nothing especially intrinsic to the story setting. The LA story wasn't an LA story. Like, the Helsinki story wasn't, you couldn't tell, there was nothing, Finnish about it in a way. So that to me felt like a missed opportunity. To me, it looks like he didn't have any ground point to make with that film. It was more like, I want to visit those places and I want to make a movie with my friends.
It was like you were dropping in on conversations, I thought. You were dropping in on these fun conversations in a cab. That was it. It wasn't any deeper than that.
Yeah, that was it. So I don't want to call it a home movie, but it was very close to that.
A what movie?
Home movie.
What do you mean?
As in, like, had that kind of amateur feel. As in, like, you're doing it for the sake of having fun and, like, to your point, get that kind of insight into these conversations that are temporary, right? Like, those relationships that you develop with a cab driver are temporary, but sometimes essential, and they could mark your life in a way. Like, if Winona's character had said yes, it would have marked her life significantly. But I thought that expansion of scope internationally didn't really add. Like,
the difference between movies and TV and the things that keep you enthralled for a film is like an overarching story. And it is an interesting look at, keeping, because I weirdly, I kind of watched it in segments. So like I was like watching it throughout the day and stuff like that. So watching different segments at different times when I had a chance. So I almost watched it like a TV show, but I wonder, it probably would have been a different experience if I watched it from start to finish in one sitting. Like, would I have struggled to get to the end because there isn't this kind of overarching narrative that I'm building up to some form of climax, and it is just, 5 different conversations in a taxi cab. But actually, I probably enjoyed it more because I watched it in like conversation by conversation. I watched it like watching a TV show, and just saw it as an anthology. The right word? Probably not. But like,
it's true. Yeah,
5 just individual segments that are 20-15 minutes long, like a short film almost. And yeah, I'd be interested. I don't know. Did you guys watch it as like continually?
Yeah, I watched it as one film.
Yeah, same.
Okay. And how did you find that, like going from start to finish?
I really enjoyed the rhythm of the story switching up every 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah, I think it's about 15. They're only about 15, 20
I watched
minutes
a series of films recently where they're just far too long and they grind on for hours. This film, you had this refreshing change of tone every 5 times throughout the whole film, which I really enjoyed. I did think culturally, like, the countries did come across. There was a certain New Yorkness to the way they were talking, the speed of it, the energy of it. Very different to the Italian
which was us.
Rhythm. Exactly.
What do you mean? It sounded like he was on steroids.
Sounded like he was on speed, let alone steroids.
Yeah.
I don't know. I quite enjoyed it.
what I'm gonna say, because I agree with Ben. Like, I love the soundtrack. I love the cinematography. Like, to your point, Simon, I think it was like the rhythm worked very well. So it was very pleasant to watch in a way.
And some of the performances are great, you know.
Most of them, I was like, everyone, I think, with the exception of Winona, I respond to the brief. What I am going to say is that looking back at, Jim's filmography, for me, the film's biggest significance is perhaps that it kind of brought like a conclusion to that filmmaking period of his that began with Stranger Than Paradise. And from that film onward, he went on to make some incredible works like Dead Man, Only Lovers Left Alive, Ghost Dog, Paterson. So like a lot of gold. So I think it has a place in his essential works.
I watched Paterson off the back of this.
Yeah, I do.
Didn't love it.
That's okay.
But I like Broken Flowers.
Oh, Broken Flowers as well, yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. Have you seen Broken Flowers, Ben?
No, I've not seen it.
It's good.
I'll check it out though.
Okay, guys, I think it's time. Let's take a quick break and we'll be back with Mommy.
Oh, look, a message from our sponsor.
G.I. Jane 2, can't wait to see it.
Nah, yo, hold my poodle. Hey, yo, what's up? Y'all got a problem? Y'all want some of this?
Without much further ado,
here we go again.
Hey guys, just before we get into the final scene, we wanted to give you a quick heads up that we will be discussing topics of mental health, violence, and suicide. So please be kind to yourself. And if you're not feeling 100% today, maybe listen to that segment some other time. Thank you. We are back with 2014's Mummy by Xavier. Does any of you speak French? Does any of you speak French?
No, I don't.
I did French in school, but I
Xavier.
can't.
So the reason we picked this film is because I posted its final scene on TikTok a couple of weeks ago. It has one of the best uses of music that I remember in a final scene, so I thought I'd share it. And for you listening, I'm now on TikTok, so yeah, if you want to follow me, you can do that. Anyway, the video went, as the young people say these days, viral.
as the cool
as the
kids
youngsters say these days. As we speak, the video has almost 900,000 views, which is bonkers. I got 4,000 followers out of that. It's insane. So anyway.
All 4,000 better be listening to this bloody podcast.
We did see a spike in downloads, and I know a lot of you out there have been waiting for that episode. So hi, we're here. The video got a lot of love from all kinds of people. I'm gonna go as far as to say I wouldn't be surprised if the film saw a slight spike in digital sales because of that video, because we're talking almost 1 million views. Anyway, we got a voice note as well from a lovely listener.
Hi guys, I'm really looking forward to the review of Mummy. I love it and it's one of my favorites of all time, and it's really underrated, and I really appreciate that you talk about it, because I think that it's a film necessary to watch, and I would like everyone to watch it and give it a try. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you. Note taken. Request taken. We're doing this.
Actioned. Executed.
So the film is the fifth feature from the Quebec-born director, which won the Jury Award in 2014 in the Cannes Film Festival as well. That fact alone, I feel like, it makes it have much more impact. Dolan actually was 25 when he made the film, and he already had 4 feature films under his radar. So this guy's putting in the work. Let's leave it at that.
I do feel a bit inadequate.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Xavier. I'm going to intentionally get your name wrong now for making me feel inadequate.
In any case, I will take a stab at summing up the plot of the film so we can talk about the ending. Needless to say, spoilers ahead. So, Mummy is set in Quebec in an imaginary near future. The future is one that contains the S14 legislation, which enables parents to commit their usually troubled kids when they turn 16 to public institutions. The film kicks off with Steve, a deeply problematic, as Simon likes me to say, teenager, to say the least, that has just been thrown out of a special school for setting fire to the cafeteria and causing burn injuries to a fellow student. Now his mother, a 40-something working-class single mother, Diane, or Dee, claims to be able to look after and even homeschool Steve until he turns 16, and is eligible for that grim option of state-sponsored residential care. Steve is hyperactive, he's loud, he's abusive, he has ADHD, he has serious boundary issues. His mother, I would say, is not all that different. And as soon as Steve is released into his mother's care, it's where the film explodes into full mania and anarchy. Yet, somewhere into the first 35 to 40 minutes, a new central character comes in. Steve and Dee make friends with their next-door neighbor, Kyla, a teacher who suffered a nervous breakdown 2 years before, the chief symptom of which is stammering. She offers to tutor Steve and somehow, certainly not without a fight, manages to soften him and also forms a friendship with Dee. Unfortunately, the peace doesn't last for long, with the threat of legal proceedings over Steve's injuring of a child in his former institution looming. His relationship with his mother becomes once again unstable, and this all comes to a boil with a suicide attempt on Steve's part, which leads to Diane eventually giving in and committing him to a state institution. In the final scene of the film, we see Steve break free from the guards and jump out of a window.
Wait
What
a
an
minute, that's
ending.
not correct.
What? That's the final scene.
You never see him jump out the window.
You never see him jump out the window.
Well,
Yeah,
it's
implied.
That is naughty.
He runs towards the window with the implication that he's gonna jump out of it.
Yeah, but you don't know.
With feet don't fail me now.
I thought
Take me to the
I thought
finish
a lot of our
line.
discussion was going to be
Set
around
underneath.
what actually happened when it goes
That's
black.
what we're gonna talk about. I
Okay.
mean, but based on what I've
What do you
read-
think? He just hits the window and just hits it like a brick wall and bounces
Yeah,
back.
or I mean, a lot of the times in that film, it's like a diversion, isn't there? You think something's going to happen and then it goes the other way. So it's not.
I don't think so. I think this
we can
is
talk
the.
about it,
I think,
but he
yeah.
escapes.
Like he tries to commit suicide in the shop and he fails.
But I think this is the
Sure.
finish line, and I think the fact that just before this he's off the phone with Di, telling her, how
Yeah, there's
apologetic he is, and
in terms of like first reaction, because I think what you just said is interesting. What did you think of the ending in terms of? Did you find it shocking? What was your reaction going into that final
It's
scene?
really sad.
yeah, I thought it
Okay.
was. Combined with the fact that we find out just before we see this, like the reason she doesn't answer the phone to him is that Kyle has just come over to tell her that she's moving to Toronto. So actually, for Di, it's like you don't see her reaction to what's happened to Steve, but her, do you know what? Her performance when she is holding back tears, looking across the street, is like brilliant.
Yeah.
Like it's incredible. Like you see, the most impactful films are when you see points in your life where you're like, fuck, I've done that. Like I've been that when you're trying to really hold something in, and like her blowing at her cheeks and puffing at her cheeks and stuff like that. And it's just like gut-wrenchingly painful.
Did you expect it to take that kind of sad, hopeless turn? Because for me, the ending is very hopeless.
Yeah.
So at the beginning of the film, you know that this law's been enacted, and you know that this kid Steve, he's obviously got terrible ADHD problems, attachment problems, and he's becoming more and more of a loose cannon. So you know throughout the film the tension's building. Like, is she or isn't she going to do this?
And the thing, one of the things that when you hear a line in a film and you think that's going to be important. One of the first things that's said to her when she's going to check him out from the school, she's having the talk with the secretary where she informs her about, this new law coming in. And she says to her, loving people doesn't save them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the whole premise, pretty much the whole premise of it, is her trying to save him by just loving him to the best ability that she can. And eventually it just becomes,
Although might it have done, because I read it as Kyla thinks in that last conversation between Kyla and Diane, that Kyla doesn't approve of her committing him to the institution.
No.
She
And
doesn't.
actually it leads to potentially his death. So
She
maybe
doesn't.
Kyla was right and it was wrong of her to give in and not carry on loving him in the home.
At that point, it's when we realize Diane puts herself first. Because I have the quote in front of me from that conversation, which I thought it was quite important. She says, I sent him there because I have hope. I'm full of hope, okay? This world doesn't have tons of hope, but I like to think that it's full of hopeful people hoping all day long. Better off that way, because us hopeful people can change things. Hopeful world with hopeless people, that won't get us far. I did what I did, so that way there is hope. So I win all the way. It's a win-win for everybody. So for her, it was the prospect of hope, of a happy life, of a future that led her to have Steve institutionalized. And it is as though she realizes that this is the way to go for her to have a normal life, right? Because she doesn't pick up the phone. She disengages. She lets him disintegrate in the institution. She refuses, it's literally no contact, right? at that point onward. What she
Cuts all
does.
ties, yeah.
And she calls it a win. It's a win-win. For me, that's really like the pivotal point of her
powerful
making.
language.
I didn't read it like that because I didn't think there'd been that much passage of time since him going into the psychiatric hospital and that scene.
Yeah, he was 2 weeks into.
That's just 2 weeks. It's probably like, I read that as like an initial period of like, let him settle in. You're not allowed to contact him, whatever. It wasn't like she'd written him out of her life and she'd moved on.
There is a lot of intention. There is a lot of intention in the scene where she doesn't pick up the phone. There's a reason that scene is there.
But I just thought she was...
And what's the reason for not engaging with him and like over the phone?
But she didn't
Why cut off contact like that?
The way that was shot, I didn't think that she was ignoring the phone on purpose.
I thought she just missed it, yeah, because she's outside, yeah.
She's like in a different room. The shot is like the phone's on a glass table like this, and then the door to what she calls the shed is closed, and then she's having that loud conversation with Kyla. But I read it as just the phone's ringing and she's just trying to keep herself busy with this ridiculous conversation with Kyla.
For me, it read, he's not a priority.
Otherwise,
what's the purpose of that scene?
I think that when she discovers that he's called, she'll be absolutely gutted she didn't answer the phone.
Yeah.
But she expects that call. I mean, obviously she knows that he has access to, like, it's not like he's in jail.
But she's like all over the shop. She's a bit mad. She's losing the plot and she's missed this important call. But I don't think it was intentional.
I'm not sure. I saw it very differently. For me, it says that her choice is very intentional, and to me, that scene, I saw that kind of redemption narrative.
No, I think that's two different things, though. I kind of agree with you both, but I think in two different ways. I think her language of the win-win shows the kind of selfish nature of her decision, that putting him in there is for her. But I also agree with Simon in that I don't think she would have ignored that phone call. Yeah,
that quote, when you read that back then, that to me, that's her convincing herself that what she's done is the right thing, but she feels terrible about it because she's still his mum and she keeps throughout the film reminding him that no matter what he does, she'll always love him. I think she's hating the fact she's made this decision, but she just can't cope with it any longer.
I mean, in the final conversation with Kyla, she is broken. Like, she just feels like...
She's like almost so hyper, she can't even speak normally. She's like trying to pretend that her life is fine, but clearly...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, pretending it's fine when it's not.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the Inception ending, right? You know, you can actually take a couple of different things, but because we don't actually see him jump out the window, we just where it's kind of implied with the song, and we can probably talk about the soundtrack and stuff like that. You can have different interpretations to it of maybe he doesn't, maybe he does, and then what is Dai's reaction going to be?
I thought it kind of prophesied his fate in a way.
Yeah,
because it does feel like the cutoff point is intentional from Dolan, right? Like there's a reason the ending is up in the air, because depends on maybe on the state of mind that you have watching that film as well. I mean, if you're feeling hopeful or hopeless, right? So what happens is we see Steve free himself from a straitjacket and jump through the window. And people in the comments in the TikTok video went on like a crazy spiral, like Reddit rabbit hole in a way, where they were like, it was the second floor, it was the third floor, it was the fourth floor, because if it was the second, probably he wouldn't die.
It's the ground floor. It breaks out like the Incredible Hulk.
There was someone in the comments that were like, it's the second floor because we are surrounded by forest and you can clearly see the sunset. So,
wow.
So it was super elaborate. So, I mean, I'm not going to go down that road. It's a deep dive. But to go back to the soundtrack, you have the Born to Die by Lana Del Rey song dropping out of nowhere. So what I got out of that ending is that there is no promise of happiness and future that is kind of alluded by in that Die quote earlier, right? It's kind of, the thing is, two things happen. He either makes a run, right? And he's trying to escape and he survives, and he either gets caught by guards, and what's the best case scenario of that? He gets more drugs, he gets more sedated, he gets excluded from the society. Like it's all gonna go downhill in that way. Or he dies.
Or option number 3,
yes,
the sequel is a revenge horror where he breaks out with his bionic leg. Yeah, and it's called Daddy now because he refers to himself as Daddy and he's going to kill his mommy.
In the scene that you're talking about where he's running towards the window and the Lana Del Rey track's playing, the lyrics are "Feet don't fail me now," aren't they?
Yeah.
And it's like, to me, I read that as, or heard that as, that's what he's saying to himself. He's like,
yes,
let me kill myself. That's what he wants to do.
I think so. And I think if you look at the songs used throughout the film, there's a very intentional use of music rather than dialogue. Like the opening scene is White Flag. I mean, we love a bit of Dido, and White Flag, you know, plays when Di is, you know, pulling herself together, pulling her life together, saying, "I'm not going to give up, Steve. You know, this is going to work out with Steve." And then the bit in the middle, you know, Wonderwall. Today's going to be the day where I throw it back to you. The screen gets bigger, which is, I think, one of my favorite things.
I love that bit when he opens the screen.
Yeah,
in his hand.
the whole film is shot in. Cool. Was it 1:1? And then he pulls the screen open, and that for whole scene of just this hopeful scene with the three of them, and the weight is off his shoulders, and he's truly happy. And the song really reflects it. So I think actually you probably can make the assumption, as you say, it's feet they'll fail me now. You know, let me do this.
It's true. Like Dolan,
it's really intentional use of music.
Dolan has said that. And this is why I know, Simon, you have thoughts about the soundtrack and the reason sometimes like the song choice is kind of debatable. But he has said that the songs are not chosen by him as a director, by the characters.
So at the beginning of the film, I was like, what are these tunes? It's really trashy soundtrack. It's really cheesy. And then once I learned it was about the mixtape that his dad had given him from the road trip they did in California years ago. And there's this CD you see him sort of treasuring. I took that to mean that probably most of the tunes that you're hearing in the film are from that CD. And then that made loads of sense. And it's like this childhood mix CD that's like imprinted on his mind and it's become the soundtrack to his life. And then that Lana Del Rey one, in my head, was the last track on that CD.
Yeah, it's where the album ends.
Yeah, and almost. That's why like Eiffel 65's in it, Dido, Counting Crows, like all of these, just this smorgasbord of random pop from over the years. And then once I found out it was from his dad, it made way more sense. And yeah, as you say, chosen by the character. It's literally, that's why I think that combined with the handheld camera 1:1 aspect ratio gives you this slice of life feeling. A little bit, not a documentary, but it just feels more like a home movie,
intimate.
Like you said before.
Intimate.
Yeah, intimate. And then you have those brilliant moments where it opens up and becomes more expansive and more like you can breathe
cinematic,
again.
Yeah.
I think it was really effective and really creatively done.
I think that's my favorite scene in the film, that Wonderwall scene. I think it's
like I actually
it's
measured the screen with a tape measure because like, is that portrait or is that square?
In a difficult film to watch, it's this really hopeful scene. And actually, do you know what? I don't know if we want to talk about this or not, but I think what makes the actual ending even more heartbreaking is that we get a false ending in the montage of him getting into school, him getting his life together, him getting married, like that, this beautiful scene of you're like, fucking hell, yes, Steve gets his life together. And like, this is just what you want because you're rooting for him of like, you know, it's not your fault, Matt Damon, Good Will Hunting, like it's not your fault type thing. And really wanting the best for him. And then it just cuts back to like, it's a really abrupt cut as well. Yeah. Like it just cuts to black and it's back in the car.
Yeah.
And she's like, I need to go to the toilet. Let's pull over here. And then there's that realization in his eyes as they're coming towards the car. It's just like, yeah, it's painful to watch because, as you say, it's like what you could have won.
That's why the ending works, because I feel like when you take the first intro card that introduces the S14 legislation, which I mean, you can tell he wants to make a socio-political argument with that film because he starts with that. And then he ends with Steve's fate, which is not going to be a good one regardless of the outcome. It shows that at the end of the day, there is no hopeful future for people like I think these people are representative of people like working class, live in a marginal space in the context of mental health, traditional family dynamics. She's a single mother, class as well. So it is very pessimistic, right? And I think Dolan is a bit like that. But I feel like it's more about the bigger issue that he wants to touch on, which probably isn't. He didn't do it in the most impactful way, but I feel he wants to address that as well.
Yeah, I didn't feel like it was like overly political though. I thought it was a great piece of work without the politics.
I know we kind of touched on this, but the debate in terms of do we think he killed himself or he didn't kill himself? What are your thoughts on that?
Having not delved into whether I can see the sunset or the tips of the trees, no offense to the people on the internet, I would say my conclusion is that he has killed himself, and I think it's the lyrics of the song speak to it, especially considering that false ending as well. It's the polar opposites of that, and I think, as you say, there's definitely a heartbreaking scene possibly to follow when Di gets that phone call, but that's not something we get to see.
I think the answer in that, I mean, I don't know if there's truly an answer, but in terms of trying to explore the different scenarios, is going back to his motivations, because you would have a different motivation for killing yourself or making a run out of it. If anything, if you want to escape, it means you want to escape because you want to live your life. So it's like a pursuit of freedom in a way. Well, suicide is like, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. This is over for me. I don't want to give myself another chance into redemption or like up until that point, you know, with Kyla as well into the picture, we started to see him kind of, you know, getting more soft, like a bit more empathetic, maybe it's a strong word, but a bit more like, I don't know what's the word, because I don't want to be like normal.
Well, I think the phone message he leaves his mum is yes, kind of goes with what you're saying. You know, he leaves this essentially an apology message where he does he's developed some empathy. He's like, I'm sorry for all the hurt I've caused you and stuff. So for that reason, perhaps we should think that he did commit suicide, because that was his suicide note.
Out of guilt.
That's a goodbye, yeah.
Yeah, guilt. And if he commits suicide, he'll stop hurting his mum. She'll be able to be happier. And then if you combine that with what you were saying earlier about the point the director was trying to make, then maybe that is the message he wants to send. Like, this is what happens if you marginalize people with mental health problems and there's no support structure and they do get shoved in institutions, they end up killing themselves.
Exactly. That was one of my questions for you guys as well, because in the beginning of the film, where he's in that special needs school, I think it's that kind of school, he doesn't make a run for, like, he doesn't make a run. He's just there. He's just making the most out of, like, the situation, but he doesn't commit suicide. So something happens throughout the film, which is what we are witnessing, like his relation with his mom and Kyla, that urges him to do whatever he's doing in the end. So this is why I think, Simon, you bring a really good point. Like, what changed him?
Also, medication is a factor.
Medication,
That's the third thing.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So he's pretty numb. He's making more colder, more calculated decisions under, you know, the medication's pretty calmed down. He says in that message to his mum how high he is, how if she could see his face now, she'd be like laughing.
But don't forget as well, this when he goes in there and assuming there has been no contact for him, when he's being dragged out of the car, it's the greatest betrayal, not from just his mum, but from Kyla as 100%. Well. It's not just his mum, but this other woman who's come into his life, who's helping him get his life together, is then just sitting there and letting this happen to him. In that scene, you see Di saying, no, I take him back.
Change my mind.
Change my mind. Yeah. And as you say, he's making these colder decisions, but actually, also, assuming he hasn't had any contact, it's off the back of this massive betrayal of, you know, Steve recognizes that he's apologizing to his mum. He recognizes that he's trouble and stuff like that, but he was getting his life together and he thought he was. And the lashing out at the bar and other things like that. And then the
bar scene's great. The way they ramp up the tension. So he's doing karaoke and then there's these people like
making fun
goading him, calling him all sorts of like homophobic names. And then as well as that, which is obviously annoying him, he can then see his mum and the potential lawyer that might help him kind of getting close. And he hates that. And the whole situation just keeps heating up until he snaps. What annoyed me in that scene is that the mum is so engrossed in the lawyer, she probably doesn't notice all the goading that's going on. So she probably just thinks he's overreacted.
Well, even, and going back to what you said, Sophie, about the kind of the I win nature, what she says to Steve before he runs away and disappears that night after the bar fight, it's like, why? It's all about her. Mm-hmm. It's like, why can't I have we're trying to have a normal life and then you do this and blah, 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 and I can't have a normal life because of you. And, you know.
I did feel for her then because she's at the end of her tether. Even the lawyer guy was like trying to give some perspective on it, even though his motives were probably a bit dodge. But he was saying how your mum's given everything. She's given you her whole life. You know, everything she's doing, it's for you. And you could see why she was like, I want something for myself. Yeah. I've got a life.
I think this is what the director does quite well, even though ultimately Diane chooses herself in a way, and chooses her life for the time being.
But is she though? I don't know if it's
at this present
she
moment,
might be just trying to do what's best for her son. Like, you just don't. It's not. It wasn't clear to me that she was doing it just for her.
I don't know. No, I'm seeing a lot of. You know, I agree with Ben. I'm seeing a lot of selfishness in her throughout the film. It's not. She's not like Mother of the Year. For sure. Like she's...
I don't think she's ever set out to be. I don't think he's trying to paint her as that.
But exactly. That's what I was going to say. I do think that's Dolan's intention. He doesn't try to demonize Diane.
No,
not at all.
And I think that's what's done very well. Sometimes you have to put yourself first, even if it means you're someone's mom.
Because
you can't take it anymore. You are this critical, like
she would end up like him. She would end up suicidal.
Yeah,
if she was,
100%. Yeah. So I'm not like, this isn't about who's right, who made the right choice. It's a fucked up situation, period. But sometimes you reach a point of no return where you are so traumatized by what you've experienced, where you're like, I need a fucking break. And the fact that I'm a mom shouldn't, come with a stain, right? So it's very complicated in that sense. So the final scene to me implies that actually Steve is very much aware of all of that. And I think deep down, to go back to that phone call, he thinks he is a burden to her. And the fact that she made the decision to, get him institutionalized kind of got to him, and he feels a lot of guilt. Because what you mentioned, Simon, earlier before we started recording, in terms of how it can get a bit incesty. There's like husband and wife, brother and sister, best friends, prince and queen. They're everything to each
There's a
other.
bit where he kisses her on the lips.
Yeah, it's
interesting because he does it towards the start of the film as well. But he puts his hand over her mouth, which is what the poster of the movie is as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the relationship with Kyla as well.
I think that
is
there to demonstrate the, like you say, the boundary issues and the attachment stuff that he's troubled by.
Yeah. One other thing that I read about Dolan is that he actually used his own experience because he was sent to boarding school by his mother when he was young. So I feel like you can see a bit of autobiographical. He's quite tender to Steve, even though he's a very hard character to like, let's be honest. And I feel like in the end, it's almost like he's admirable to him, that kind of pursuit of freedom in the end, whatever that may be.
Yeah, I mean, his actions throughout the film are like horrible and at points like disgusting. And the taxi driver scene is awful. He somehow builds his car. And actually, it's down to the actor as well. Like the guy who plays Steve is fantastic. And I think it comes down to stuff like the Wonderwall scene where you see that kind of this tormented soul who isn't in control of his emotions. Just these moments of pure joy as well that like he's not only bringing to himself, but like you see how much joy Di and Kyla get out of him as well, of being like, being able to be around him and like, having him as a son and a friend and stuff like that. But yeah, he still does things that are like, even in the opening scene, or not the opening scene, but the start when they first live together and he's like choking her. She hits him with the photograph because she's like, I thought you locked yourself in the closet. It's like, I thought you were going to kill me. I genuinely thought I was going to die.
Yeah, it's awful.
And and as you say, the taxi driver scene, like it's quite like visceral. Like he's very like he
spits on the windscreen.
Yeah, like his aggression. Like you kind of feel that aggression. Like it's you kind of feel like he's been let loose. Like he has seen red, and I think that's what that actor does really well. Is you kind of see clearly the points where you see that Steve has been taken over by this seeing red almost, and like he's not that person that we know can have this really promising future that we believe he can have, and going to Juilliard and getting married and these different things. But
I also was thinking about when Diane, the mum, is served the papers saying you're going to have to pay 250,000 quid to the kid that got the burns from the fire in the school that Steve started right at the beginning of the film. And that's where it all begins to unravel, isn't it? And it's that kind of like suing someone that's already, it's got nothing, that's already knee-deep.
Yeah, how do you take something from somebody who has
mental health
nothing,
problems? Like, what is the benefit to anybody in that? And like, I kind of wished that Diane could like write to the mum and dad of the kid with the burns, which is obviously awful, and be like, look, this is my situation. Like, try and understand. My son is like really struggling. I mean, I'm sure the money would be useful to pay for his treatment, but I can't afford it. I don't have any insurance. What good is going to come of this?
Yeah. I felt it was quite indifferent to the arson situation, which I felt quite uncomfortable as well. Your son has caused some serious injury to someone, and it's like, see that
it doesn't get spoken about from the beginning until the moment the papers are served to her.
It's awful.
But then, like, from Diane's perspective, like, she hasn't done it. The problems that Steve's got are not something that she's built into him as part of her upbringing, I don't think.
No.
And so
but
it must be really hard for her because he's done this terrible thing and it's caused these terrible repercussions on this other kid, but she didn't do it, and she's got to just deal with the fallout from it, and it's going to affect her life forever potentially, but it wasn't her.
It's the equivalent of, you have a lot of moms feeling very bad for bringing, psychopaths and like serial killers to life, where they feel like a sense of responsibility because it's their son.
And the thing is,
you have a responsibility to how you raise your kids in a way. I'm not saying
off the back of what you said there, Simon. And what we don't see is that just because Steve is gone doesn't mean that lawsuit is gone. Like Di's life is still going to go to shit.
For me, it was just further tension for her to deal with, and it was just becoming more and more overwhelming. Just all this stuff racking up.
Untenable.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Which I think is the main takeaway of the film, that love and fear can coexist at the same time. And just because you experience both, that doesn't mean that you can live with them both at the same time. So I don't want to say it is okay to be able to say enough is enough, but that's what happened in this case, which goes back to us not condemning Diane in a way, because I feel like deep down, under the right circumstances, we can all turn into Diane, and we kind of owe it to the fact that we are all human, right?
I think that's what the film does that really well, is that any person from any family could see themselves in what's happening. It's a very real story.
The film does a good job of giving you empathy for somebody in that situation. You need to keep watching and being exposed to material like that to remind you of the shit some people are having to go through that wasn't of their making. And she's just been shoved into this situation. Her husband died.
Yeah.
The kid's got these mental health issues, and she's just trying to survive.
Survive is the right word, isn't it? Yeah.
Self-preservation. Yeah. Okay, we solved the ending, you guys.
We got there.
I think.
Once again. Who's saying that he dies and who's saying that he survives?
I think he's died, yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, same.
Oh, okay.
Oh, well, I thought you were lining that up to say...
No.
Okay.
Yeah. I've listened to the evidence and I decided.
This is why the ending has been solved.
There we go.
Cool. If you made it this far, we would love for you to subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening. And if you're a new listener, give our previous episodes a listen as well and let us know what you think. And if you really like what you just listened, give us a 5-star review on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. That could be your random act of kindness for the day. We will be back in 2 weeks with the one and only Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight Rises. Thank you so much for listening. We will see you soon.
Did you like it? Did you like that?
Did I like it? I loved it.
I had no idea you could milk a cat.
I have nipples, Greg. Could you milk me?
Good morning.
Morning. Good morning.
Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.